So now I take a few minutes to speak in strong support of my friend and our colleague, Senator Jeff Sessions, to serve as the 84th Attorney General. Last week, the Judiciary Committee spent over 6 hours debating the nomination. Every single Democrat opposed the nomination, but this wasn't, of course, much of a surprise. During our committee debate, Senator Graham correctly pointed out that based on the standard the Democrats established, it appears no Republican could ever earn their support. It's no secret that our Democrat colleagues don't like the new president. They're doing what they can do to undermine the new administration. With respect to Senator Sessions, my Democrat colleagues disagree with a number of policy positions he has taken over the years. But this year seems to be unlike previous administrations where senators supported candidate nominees even if they disagreed with the nominee on policy grounds. That's what happened in 2009 when Senator Sessions and I both supported Eric Holder for Attorney General, even though we disagreed with him on many policies. So, after listening to all the reasons why they're opposing this nomination, I can boil their objections down to these points. Even though many of my colleagues have known this good man for years, even though many of my colleagues have worked closely with him to pass important bipartisan legislation, even though many of them have praised him in the past for his integrity and for being a man of his word, even though Senator Sessions has pledged to support and defend all laws passed by Congress, even those he disagrees with, when it comes time to stand up in support of this good man, they're unwilling to take him at his word. Now, this is very troubling because all of us here in the Senate know Jeff Sessions. Some of us have known him for decades. Regardless of what my colleagues are willing to admit publicly, we all know him to be a man of deep integrity, a man of his word, and a man committed to fairness, to justice, and most importantly, to the rule of law. So, we all know that when Senator Sessions served as an assistant U.S. attorney, as a U.S. attorney, and as Attorney General for his home state of Alabama, he worked hard to promote the rule of law and to bring justice to both victim and perpetrators. We know he has deep commitment to the rule of law, something an Attorney General must possess, or he could not be the chief law enforcement officer of the United States. In other words, that law or that position is all about carrying out and having a commitment to the rule of law. As I said, much of Senator Sessions' hearing focused on his record as a legislator. Now, it's true, Senator Sessions has voted on legislation in ways that the left doesn't like. And of course, I have even disagreed with him from time to time. But we all understand that every time we cast a vote, we're voting in the way we see what is the best for our country. And I think we all also understand that very rarely is any bill a so-called perfect piece of legislation. At one time or another, every single member of this body has opposed legislation based upon a principal objection to a particular provision. So, of course, Senator Sessions has voted differently than his Democrat colleagues. Now, that's common sense. That's to be expected. This is the Senate. We're all about debating policy, and for long periods of time. That's how the Senate works. We all know the role of senator and the role of attorney general are very, very different. A legislator debates policy and votes on legislation. The attorney general enforces the laws as enacted. All of us here in the Senate understand that difference. Senator Sessions understands the difference better than most. In addition to serving as a senator for 20 years, he served in the Department of Justice for 15 years, a department dedicated to law enforcement and to the rule of law and following what Congress directs law to be. I'm disappointed in my colleagues who have suggested Senator Sessions won't be able to put aside his policy differences that he established here in the United States and enforce the law, even if he voted against that law. This is especially troubling after he specifically committed to us during this confirmation hearing that if he is confirmed, he will follow the law, regardless of whether he supported that statute as a policy matter. The criteria for this nomination is kind of put in these words, quote, will this man, whose integrity is beyond a reproach, enforce the law as he said he will? End of the quote of that question that I put out there. Senator Sessions answered that question directly during his hearing. He stated this, quote, the Justice Department must remain ever faithful to the Constitution's promise that our government is one of laws and not of man. It will be my unyielding commitment to you, if confirmed, to see that the laws are enforced faithfully, effectively, and impartially, end of quote. But he goes on to say, so I want to quote again, the Attorney General must hold everyone, no matter how powerful, accountable. No one is above the law, and no American will be beneath its protection, end of quote. Now, whether he said those things one time or dozens of times, and it's more apt to be dozens of times during the day and a half of hearings or speeches that we had, or hearings that we had on him, plus the speeches that were given, it can't be much clearer than what he just said. But even after he made this promise, members asked Senator Sessions if he would defend the laws that he had voted against. And he answered in the affirmative, stating, quote, I would defend the statute if it is reasonably defensible. It is passed by Congress. It would be the duty of the Attorney General, whether they voted for it or support it, to defend it, end of quote. He was questioned about a host of hot-button policy issues. Time and again, his answer was the same. He will enforce the law. This will actually be quite different from the Obama administration, which refused to enforce laws that it didn't like. They did this while the people that are now in the minority, the Democrats, turned a blind eye when they didn't enforce the law. Senator Sessions also made clear that he possesses the independence necessary for an attorney general. I've often heard Senator Sessions ask executive nominees, including nominees for attorney general, whether they will have the fortitude to stand up to the president who appointed them. So I asked him the same question during my time of questioning in the committee. I asked if he'll be able to say no to President Trump. And he said, quote, "I will understand the importance of your question. I understand the responsibility of the Attorney General, and I will do so. You simply have to help the President do things that he might desire in a lawful way and have to be able to say no, both for the country, for the legal system, and for the President to avoid situations that are not acceptable. I understand that duty. I have observed it through my years here. I will fulfill that responsibility." End of Senator Sessions' quote to our committee. Senator Sessions' commitment to be independent from the President when it's necessary and his promise to enforce the law is exactly what this nation needs right now. We haven't seen much of this over the past 8 years. The department has been politicized over the past 8 years, and that has caused great harm. The leadership of the Department of Justice has undermined our confidence in the rule of law by picking and choosing which laws it will enforce. I'm looking forward to turning a new page at the department under our friend's leadership as Attorney General. It's desperately needed, particularly at this time. Last week in particular, it showed us how critical it is to have someone leading the department who is committed to following the law. Last week, then Acting Attorney General Sally Yates announced that she wouldn't present arguments in defense of President's recent executive order, even though she admitted there was a defense to be made. As soon as she did this, Democrats ran to her defense and sang her praises. But after Senator Sessions' hearing, I would have expected Democrats to come to the opposite conclusion. During his hearing, they asked Senator Sessions whether he'd enforce a law that he didn't like, and they asked that question over and over and over. But last week, Ms. Yates refused to enforce a law. Why? Because she didn't like it. And the Democrats lauded her bravery. They lauded her courage. Now, let's be very clear. She didn't say that she can't constitutionally defend the president's order or offer good faith defenses of its legality in the court. Instead, this is what she explained: her decision by saying her job is not the same as the job in the Department of Justice's Office of Legal Counsel. She said, importantly, OLC, meaning the Office of Legal Counsel, does not address whether any policy choice embodied an executive order is wise or just. That seems to suggest, of course, that the decision whether or not to defend an executive order or statute in court turns on whether the Attorney General believes the law or order is wise or just. But with all respect to Ms. Yates, that wasn't her job. The department's job is to enforce the law. just like Senator Sessions, becoming Attorney General, said he would enforce the law. Ms. Yates' obligation was clear. If she couldn't defend the order in good conscience, the only proper course was to resign. This unfortunate situation with Ms. Yates highlights why it is important to swiftly move to confirm an Attorney General who will be faithful to the Constitution and uphold the law, regardless of policy preferences. Ultimately, it comes down to this. There is no one more qualified than Jeff Sessions for this position. He served in the department for 15 years. He served as Attorney General for his home state of Alabama. And for 20 years, he served on the Senate Judiciary Committee, which has oversight over the Department of Justice. We all know Senator Sessions is a man of his word. We all know that he'll enforce all the laws on the books, regardless of whether he supported them. So, both Republicans and Democrats know that he'll make an excellent Attorney General, and the nation will be served well by his appointment. I urge all of my colleagues to vote in favor of the nomination, and I yield the floor.